The news began to spread quietly at first, through small political circles, journalists, and social media whispers. Then, by afternoon, it was everywhere. Omoyele Sowore, the man known for his fearless activism, was preparing to meet with former Vice President Atiku Abubakar. It was a move no one saw coming. For weeks, Sowore had been at the center of one of Nigeria's loudest campaigns, the call to release Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. He had spoken on live broadcasts, appeared at protests, and openly criticized the government for what he described as the unlawful detention of Kanu. To him, it was not just about one man in prison. It was about what justice means in a country struggling to find balance between power and fairness. Sowore had already faced many battles. He had been arrested before, detained, and even banned from traveling. Yet he continued to speak. His voice had become one that both inspired and divided Nigerians. Some saw him as a troublemaker. Others called him a truth-teller. But this time, something about his new direction caught everyone's attention. Instead of another street protest or fiery press conference, Sowore was choosing dialogue. And not just with anyone, but with Atiku Abubakar, a heavyweight in Nigerian politics, and a man with his own long history of national influence. People immediately began asking questions. What was Sowore doing with Atiku? Was this a political alliance? Or was it a rare attempt to bridge a long-standing divide between activism and power? Those who know Sowore well said his reason was clear. He wanted to take the fight for Nnamdi Kanu's release beyond slogans and street chants. He wanted to reach people who actually had the power to make decisions. People who could talk to the president, the National Assembly, and the key figures inside the security agencies. And Atiku, whether one likes him or not, fits that description. According to people close to Sowore's campaign, the idea of the meeting started during one of his late-night discussions with supporters. They were reviewing the slow progress of the #Free Nnamdi Kanu Now movement and wondering what else could be done. The protests were strong. The online campaign was loud. But the government remained silent. It felt like shouting into an empty hall. Someone suggested that maybe it was time to talk, not just protest. Talk to those who could help change the story. At first, Sowore dismissed it. He's never been one to sit comfortably with politicians. But later, he started to think about it differently. If the goal was truly freedom, then maybe the method had to change. So he reached out quietly to a few respected voices who had once worked around Atiku. No cameras. No press releases. Just phone calls and quiet conversations. And soon, word got back that Atiku was open to the idea. That single confirmation sparked the buzz. Because in Nigeria's political history, seeing Sowore and Atiku in the same room is something few imagined. Their backgrounds, beliefs, and political styles are miles apart. Sowore is bold and street-focused. Atiku is structured and diplomatic. But both understand one thing: power in Nigeria is never moved by silence. As soon as the report broke online, reactions poured in. Supporters of Nnamdi Kanu saw it as a major breakthrough. They praised Sowore for thinking beyond emotions and trying to engage national leaders. Others were skeptical. They feared that the move could be misunderstood or even hijacked by political interests. Still, Sowore seemed ready. He released a short statement reminding everyone that the fight for freedom doesn't belong to one group alone. He said, "This is not about me. This is not about Atiku. This is about doing what's right, because injustice anywhere is a threat to peace everywhere." Those words carried weight. They signaled a new stage in the campaign, one that moved from confrontation to conversation. Even though many still doubted whether Atiku would truly support Kanu's release, the fact that the conversation was even happening was already news in itself. By nightfall, Abuja was buzzing. Political analysts were making predictions on television. Supporters of Sowore were celebrating on social media. Critics were cautious but curious. And through it all, one message kept repeating across the country: if Sowore and Atiku could sit together and talk about justice, then maybe, just maybe, something could finally change. Because in a nation where silence has often protected power, even a single meeting can sound like the start of a storm. After the news broke about Sowore's plan to meet Atiku Abubakar, the atmosphere around Abuja began to shift. It wasn't an official government meeting, yet the attention it drew was massive. Political aides, journalists, and supporters from both sides were watching every move. People wanted to know, was this just another headline, or was something real about to happen? Behind the scenes, Sowore's team was moving quietly but carefully. They knew this meeting couldn't be rushed. It wasn't just about setting a date or a location. It was about building trust between two men who had walked very different paths in Nigerian politics. For years, Sowore had openly criticized politicians like Atiku, calling them part of the old system that needed change. Now, he was reaching out to one of them. That required humility, strategy, and focus. According to close associates, Sowore's first step was to send a private message through a mutual contact, someone respected by both camps. That message was simple and direct. He wanted to talk about the continued detention of Nnamdi Kanu and how it was hurting national unity. He wasn't coming to beg or play politics. He was coming to reason. Atiku's response reportedly came within a few days. It was short but positive. He agreed that the matter had dragged on for too long and needed a fresh approach. He also made it clear that the issue had to be handled with wisdom, not emotions. That was enough to get things moving. Plans for the meeting began to take shape. Both sides agreed it would be private, away from the media glare. There would be no official photographers or reporters allowed in. The focus was to have a sincere and open conversation, something that's rare in Nigerian politics. Sowore wanted to lay out facts and make a moral argument for Nnamdi Kanu's release. He believed that no democracy can stand when court orders are ignored and voices of dissent are silenced. He was determined to show that Kanu's continued detention was no longer just a legal issue, it had become a symbol of the government's disregard for justice. Atiku, on the other hand, had his own perspective. He had been in politics long enough to understand the weight of national security and the risks that come with separatist movements. But he also understood politics deeply, and he knew that the longer this matter stayed unresolved, the more it hurt Nigeria's image and unity. If there was a way to influence the government toward dialogue instead of confrontation, it would be worth it. Both men were aware that meeting face-to-face could spark political reactions. Some people in Sowore's camp worried that critics might accuse him of selling out. Some within Atiku's network were also nervous. They feared it could be seen as him indirectly supporting a separatist cause. But despite those fears, neither side backed down. They believed that history often remembers those who choose courage over comfort. As the plans deepened, Sowore's inner circle began drafting notes and key talking points. They reviewed Kanu's legal situation, the past court rulings that called for his release, and the public protests that had been held across the country. Sowore wanted to speak with facts, not feelings. He wanted Atiku to understand that this was about justice, not rebellion. Meanwhile, Atiku's aides worked quietly to ensure the meeting would be discreet and safe. A private venue was picked somewhere in Abuja, neutral ground, where no side would feel controlled or intimidated. Security arrangements were made without fanfare, and only a few trusted aides would be present on each side. As the date drew near, the silence around the meeting became louder. Journalists tried to confirm details, but no one was speaking publicly. What was clear, though, was that something significant was about to happen. For the first time, a major activist and a top political figure were preparing to sit down and talk about a man whose detention had divided the country for years. Political analysts began to weigh in. Some said Sowore's approach was bold, that it showed maturity and a deep understanding of how real change happens in Nigeria. Others were skeptical, claiming Atiku might only be entertaining the conversation for political gain. But even those doubts couldn't erase the importance of the step being taken. When asked privately why he was willing to meet, Sowore reportedly said, "We've shouted enough. Now it's time to reason with those who can make decisions." Real activism is not only about protest, it's also about strategy. That line began circulating online: protest is power, but dialogue is direction. And many Nigerians agreed. They felt something different was coming. A chance for both activism and politics to meet halfway, not as enemies, but as voices for justice. As Abuja prepared for that quiet but powerful meeting, one question remained in the minds of millions. Could this new alliance of unlikely partners finally open the door to Nnamdi Kanu's freedom? No one could say for sure. But for the first time in a long while, there was a sense that maybe, just maybe, the walls were beginning to crack. As of now, the meeting between Omoyele Sowore and Atiku Abubakar has not yet taken place. But its possible outcome has already stirred conversations across the country. In Abuja, Lagos, Enugu, and even in the diaspora communities abroad, people are talking. Everyone wants to know what could come out of this unexpected political connection. For Sowore, this is not about making headlines or shaking hands for the cameras. It is about creating a real path toward justice. He believes that the campaign for Nnamdi Kanu's release must move beyond rallies and press statements. It needs to reach the tables where decisions are made, the places where political power and influence truly sit. That's why this meeting matters, even before it happens. Political observers describe it as one of the most unusual but significant moments in Nigeria's civic space. Here is a man known for his fearless criticism of the political elite, preparing to meet a man who has been part of that elite for decades. It's almost poetic, two figures from different worlds possibly meeting because of one common cause, freedom. Inside Sowore's circle, there is a sense of purpose mixed with caution. They know that every move he makes is being watched. They also know how easily motives can be misunderstood in Nigeria's political climate. That's why they're keeping things quiet and focused. No fanfare, no noise, just the intention to make a meaningful conversation happen. According to sources close to the discussions, Sowore wants the meeting to focus strictly on Nnamdi Kanu and the broader issue of justice in Nigeria. He doesn't want it to drift into politics, campaigns, or future elections. He has made it clear that this is about principle, not position. Atiku, on his side, has reportedly shown openness to listening. He has long described himself as a believer in dialogue and due process. If that openness holds true, this conversation could be one of the most watched private meetings in recent political history. Still, uncertainty remains. No official date has been announced. No venue has been confirmed. And both sides have maintained silence about the details, a silence that has only increased public curiosity. Some supporters of Nnamdi Kanu have expressed hope, seeing this as a sign that the campaign is entering a more serious stage. Others are more skeptical, worried that it could all end in words and not action. For now, the idea itself has become the story. The thought that two powerful voices might sit down and discuss justice has already done something remarkable. It has revived national attention around Nnamdi Kanu's case. News channels are once again talking about it. Analysts are debating it. Ordinary Nigerians are asking questions again. And that, by itself, is progress. Sowore understands that change often begins with conversations that people never thought possible. He knows that every transformation starts with a step that may look small at first but can shift a nation's direction. He also knows that this path is risky. Critics could twist his intentions. The government could interpret it wrongly. But he has faced worse, and he seems ready for whatever comes next. Within Atiku's circle, there's also a quiet awareness of what's at stake. Supporting a conversation about Kanu's release is politically sensitive, especially with tensions still high in some parts of the country. But Atiku has built his political life on dialogue, and he knows that Nigeria's stability depends on how it handles difficult conversations like this one. Even if the meeting hasn't happened yet, both camps are aware that expectations are building. Social media has turned it into a countdown of sorts. Posts with the hashtag #SoworeMeetsAtiku have begun to appear alongside #FreeNamdiKanu now, with people debating what the outcome could be. Some believe it could lead to a national shift, others fear it will be blocked by politics as usual. But no one can deny that this potential meeting has already captured the nation's imagination. For now, Sowore remains quiet, focusing on his next move. He continues to speak at events, pushing for justice and urging Nigerians not to lose faith. He reminds people that no fight for freedom is ever easy, and that what matters most is consistency, not speed. Atiku, too, has made no public comment about it yet. But his silence, many say, may mean he's weighing the moment carefully. Whatever happens next, one thing is already clear: this story has grown beyond Sowore and Atiku. It has become a national reflection on justice, unity, and courage. It's a reminder that sometimes, even before an event happens, its possibility alone can move people to think differently. Because in a country where silence often wins, even the talk of a meeting for freedom can sound like hope. And right now, hope is exactly what Nigeria needs most.